Welcome to Stores and Glitterballs with Jess and Lindsay.
This episode, we are talking about where the best place is to sit in the theatre. Now, most people argue that there isn't necessarily any bad seats in a theatre, and most are built so that it's raked, so it doesn't matter if you're sat further back because you can still see over everybody, if that makes sense. But obviously there's seats that can restrict views and stuff, and we'll be getting onto that. So let's start with if we're working from height order. Let's start with the stores.
Yeah.
Which of course is ground floor.
Just in case you didn't know.
Yes, and it is also one half our name, so very.
It is
special to us.
Yeah. So the stalls are. I feel like most people would call them like the best seats in the house.
Yeah.
Because you're a lot closer to the action, especially the front rows, and you can just see everything, really, can't you?
Yeah.
All the detail.
Yeah, I like the stores. It is definitely the section that I sort of look at when I'm booking tickets. Although there is on a lot of theatre websites, there is a good feature that's choose a seat for me, or choose the best seat for me, and it will sort of
Oh yeah.
But sometimes it will put you up in the circle, which when we get onto that, does also have good seats. But yeah, like you say, you can see smaller details, facial expressions. Probably the only downside is if you're in some theatres, if you're right at the very front, you can get a sore neck because your head will be angled upwards. Yeah. I would say probably the most popular area of the stores is probably the middle of it, not right at the front, but not right at the back, just sort of middle center. Those rows are probably the most popular.
Yeah, I quite like kind of a few rows back.
Yeah,
kind of
five or so rows back.
Yeah, that's kind of my go-to if I can. Yeah. If it's not too crazy expensive, because some of them are.
Stores obviously tends to be near the top end in the price range, and there is actually, if you sit really far back, there's a possibility of slight restrictions, because in some theatres the circle kind of overhangs and so if you're really far back, it may impede the top of the stage slightly, but that bit isn't really used in performances, or is very rarely used, so you kind of wouldn't really miss out that much.
Yeah, it depends on the show, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the main thing. It depends on the production, because sometimes productions can cause restricted views, just by the way they're set up. And yeah, apart from that, unless you happen to have a giraffe in front of you, you're mostly okay in terms of sightlines.
Yeah, I feel like it depends on the theatre as well, because some of them are quite raked, so it doesn't matter really if there is a taller person in there, because they're that raked, you don't notice it. But then other ones aren't really, so it does matter. But just each theatre to their own, really.
Yeah, and I've always found, as a slightly tall person, the stores always has quite a nice leg room as well.
Yeah.
Quite generous.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah.
So
I will agree there.
Onto the circle. Now this can refer to the next tier up is often called the circle, but then you can also have sort of the upper circle, which is above that again. And then some theatres, if they're absolutely huge, have a balcony. But starting with the circle, the middle circle that's above the stores.
Yeah, that's usually called the dress circle or the royal circle.
Yeah. I would say that the front of the front of it, the front rows are usually the preferred.
Yeah.
And it's nice because of the height. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, sometimes, depending on the theatre again, if you're on the very front row, they can have a bar across, so they can be a restricted view.
If you are on the shorter side, they can get right in the way of your eye line, which is not great.
No, you need to be sitting on a little box.
And if you're sat to the kind of the far left or the far right of the circle, then you will kind of get the stage cut off, or you may get the stage cut off. And
Yeah.
obviously, like room
I
tends to be
think
more restricted as well.
yeah. But being kind of like in a circle, you're able to obviously sat at a height, so you can see the whole stage a lot better, especially if it's like a more of a dance or a musical show with a lot of choreography. You're able to just view
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
as
yeah.
a
You can
whole
appreciate that.
and just take it
Yeah,
all in. Yeah, whereas when you're kind of sat in the stalls closer up, obviously you can't.
it's just
Well, I suppose you can
yeah.
see the
I
whole
know what you're
stage,
saying.
but it's a lot harder
It's
to
just like
see
a
it
bird's
all.
eye view, isn't it? And like you can see footwork and things like that. And
Yeah,
also, particularly for like the upper circle, which is higher again, it tends to be like more budget friendly.
yeah,
So
definitely.
you,
The only thing with some of the circles, um, they can be like quite
yeah,
steep. So if it's up like a
God,
vertigo or
I
something,
mean, yeah, I've been in the upper circle of mine, and it is scary when you look down.
yeah, I do actually know someone who went to see Wicked at Apollo Victoria, and they actually couldn't like go into the theatre. They was like in the
Yeah,
circle. Um, and from what I remember, I don't recall it being like the steepest circle I've ever been in, but they like couldn't go and they had to
yeah, I
just
just couldn't
leave.
stomach it.
Um, yeah, I mean it must be so bad, like if you really want to go and see a show, but you just can't
And
handle
then,
it.
if you want to go like one better than that, the balcony that can be up to 100 feet high, and again there'll be like a safety bar.
That's crazy.
Um, I would say at that
Yeah,
level you can't really make out faces or even who the person is sometimes. Um, but obviously
yeah,
extremely cost effective, and you can still experience the magic of theatre.
yeah. You still get to see the performance as a whole. Just don't obviously don't get all of the
Yeah.
detail,
So
but
essentially, there's kind of benefits. There's pros and cons to like all of them. It depends what you want out of the performance, isn't it?
yeah,
If
yeah,
you want the facial
definitely,
expressions and you want to be basically touching distance, then you'd go for the stores. But if you want to see a more zoomed out view, if you like, then you'd go for the circles.
yeah. I mean, I've changed as I've
So have I, yeah.
got more into theatre, like kind of growing up and everything, and even like I guess now when I go like with my family, we usually go for the
Yeah,
circle and kind of like
exactly
a
the
bit more
same.
central.
Yeah.
But when I go with my friends who are also into theatre, we've started sitting kind of in stalls
Yeah.
and kind of a lot closer to be more in the action. Um,
Yeah, I mean, for
so
Strictly Ballroom, which is coming up, I'm literally front row.
yeah,
So,
I've never been front row. I was supposed
neither
to
have
be front
I.
row for six, but obviously that was
Yeah.
this year, so hasn't happened yet. But next
Getting
year,
front row for six is quite commendable, though.
yeah, I'm quite excited for that because I think I think for like all of the shows, like one of them like takes your phone. You know the final one that you can film it.
Yeah.
Like one of them takes your phone and like goes on the stage and like
Oh,
films all of the people. Like how cool would that be?
yeah. There's definitely certain advantages, um, and certain things you would miss if you weren't in the stalls. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I know me personally. I guess this is quite a good way to describe it. Last year when I saw Kinky Boots
Yeah.
and I saw it like one Saturday, which was in the stalls, kind of fourth or fifth row back, which we'd booked kind of in advance and loved it that much that we booked the following
Yeah.
week. And we booked because we'd already seen it once, we kind of wanted to go for like the cheaper thing. So we actually booked the very back row. And this was a whole new theatre. It was the closing night. And although it was like the very back row, I like didn't really miss out on anything, which was really good.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing I did miss out on that was so sad was that in the stalls, I think because it was closing night, all of the like Kinky Boot fans had like come out So, like, the audience that doesn't make any sense, does it? I think you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, like the hardcore ones.
Yeah, they'd all, like, travel to go see it and things, so the audience was just insane and, like, exploding. So they was all, like, in the stalls, and I feel like everyone in the stalls was, like, proper cheering and clapping and standing up and stuff, and everyone in sat around us was just, like, normal theatre
Yeah,
goers and
yeah,
just,
I
like,
completely know what
sat
you mean.
there.
Like, there's just a different energy sometimes, isn't there? And particularly with the stores. When I saw Kinky Boots, even though it wasn't anything, any significant like show or anything, and it was a matinee, which you would maybe expect to be quieter. Um, there was still just such an atmosphere in the stores, and we all stood up at the end for like the final song, and it was just
Yeah.
great. Like, but I didn't actually look up at the circle, but imagine if I looked up at the circle, it wouldn't have been as animated. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think we did stand up for the last song, um, and because it was closing out, they all did speeches and
Yeah,
stuff, so it was, like, a bit more than maybe a normal show would have been, but yeah, I still felt a bit like I wanted to be more in the action. I felt a bit, like, left out. I'm missing out on all the fun. It was
yeah,
still
yeah.
amazing, but
Definitely, like just going to the theatre is amazing, but there's definitely areas that can make it different.
yeah. I mean, it wasn't until recently that I discovered well, I didn't discover, but, like, kind of realised premium seats were a thing.
Yeah, yeah. Didn't know much about them.
No. I mean, they're usually considered, like, the absolute best seats, so they're pretty much the most expensive seats you can get.
Yeah, and it's sort of like it's like editor's choice. You know, when you see like certain things, like it's that kind of
Yeah.
thing, isn't it? It's what the theatre thinks is like
Yeah.
the best seat.
Yeah, the absolute best seat. Yeah. I mean, something for that is if you want to go for the premium but don't want to pay for it, just get like tickets like next to or
Yeah,
behind or
that's a
in
great
front,
tip. Yeah.
and then you're almost getting the same view, but not the premium price.
Or if you're thinking of treating yourself, you could get a box. I don't mean
Yeah,
I
going
don't mean
all out.
purchase a box. I mean you can get a box that's usually off to the side of the stage. Um,
Yeah,
particularly in like prestigious venues like the Royal Opera House. And it's usually for the royals and the Queen, but it could be for you. um,
yeah,
Obviously that's seen as like kind of the very best, very expensive, but also less distraction because you don't have people on their phones, um, people rattling crisp packets behind you,
yeah. You're
talking.
purely sat with
Yeah,
whoever you want to sit with, aren't you?
yeah, and usually they're situated really close to the like the audio equipment and the sound, which means yeah, you get like
Yeah,
the best sound, which is good for musicals in particular.
yeah. There'd definitely be something kind of if it's a special
Yeah, I mean,
occasion.
I haven't looked into how much they cost, but I imagine they're pretty
No, I
steep.
haven't. But pretty much whenever I've been to a show, I mean, most of the theatres that I kind of go to don't have boxes, so
No, mine one doesn't now.
but when I have been to one that's got boxes, they usually have people in them. What don't mean like they're all occupied, but there's usually at least one or two that have got people in them. So I'm like, they can't be that expensive that they're like impossible, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because
But
I would say predominantly a theatre audience in general are, you know, mostly middle class. Not all of them, but mostly a lot of theatre audiences are middle class. So then to
yeah,
have people in the boxes, like, yeah, it's got to be that just little bit more expensive than what it is to just sit
yeah.
normally.
I'll have to look into it. I'm curious, like how much
Yeah,
it is. But I feel like it's
maybe
not.
you can get a box.
Why not? Um, yeah, I don't know if like you have to actually inquire with them because I've never kind of
I've never,
seen the
yeah,
pop up anywhere.
I've never seen them like advertised, if that makes sense.
No, so you might have to kind of like contact them and actually ask how much it is. In which case, maybe I won't find out how much it is. But
It just makes me think
It'll
of
probably
like
be on Google.
it makes me think of films because there's always that classic scene in films where like they're watching it from a box and like someone comes behind and like assassinates them. I don't know if it's just me.
How are you selling this?
Oh, I know. No, I've just seen a lot of films where that happens. There's always one scene where someone comes behind them in a theatre box and does something.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, not saying that'll happen to you, but that's all it makes me think of. So I'm like, actually, I don't know if I do want one.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I think the only thing that puts me off is because they're at the side, like kind of watching a
Yeah,
stage, you're actually, as you actually sit in the box, you're actually facing the opposite wall. So you're not actually facing the stage.
yes, you have to be sat at an angle, and for what you pay, like it's quite restricted the view.
I know, I'm a bit
I
like,
would
is it
say,
really worth it? I feel like personally, I'd probably rather sit like in the stalls a few rows back, but
yeah, and I'm curious as to how many people you could have in the box as well. Like, what's the maximum? Because I couldn't imagine,
yeah,
if you tried to fit like 20 people in there, it would work too well.
20. No, I was thinking more like 4 or 5.
They'd be falling over the railings and stuff. So I think, yeah, there
Yeah,
must be a maximum of like 6 or something.
yeah. I guess it depends how big the box is. I wonder if they're all like a standard
Oh
size
yeah,
or
like can you get
this is getting deep
large,
about boxes, isn't it?
extra large? Yeah.
I
And
don't
obviously
know.
the Queen's one, she'll obviously have guards in there with her, or like some sort of security, because
Yeah.
to avoid that film scene. Um, so yeah, they must. Oh, it's so interesting, isn't it? Wow,
It is. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to look
I
into
didn't
that
expect to
later.
be so enthralled by the concept of a box.
Yeah. Well, should we go from the best of the best with boxes to the restricted views?
Wow.
Pretty much wherever you sit in the theatre, some seats can be sold as restricted views.
Yeah, and they will make this
Oh,
clear, very clear,
yeah, it's
usually.
usually pretty obvious.
Yeah,
Um, but they're usually cheaper, which is a bonus. And it can actually vary. Like, although they're all pretty much called restricted view, like the actual restriction of the view, like can be anything really.
yeah.
Like such as the overhang from the circle, or a safety rail blocking the eye line, which is a total nightmare.
Yep. Sometimes it could be a pillar from the roof because some of the older
Yeah,
theatres in particular have pillars.
yeah,
So yeah, if you're stuck behind one of them, you're not gonna see a lot.
no. So I think for me, I know one of my friends bought a restricted view ticket at Leeds, and she said, although it was a restricted view, like for her, there was no restricted view, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that was like me with Les Mis. The restricted view was the safety bar, but because I'm tall, it wasn't,
Yeah,
and it was like £20 cheaper.
yeah, so it's definitely worth it. But there are a lot of websites out there, such as seatplan.com, where you can like view the seating plan of the theatre, and it depends if people have actually submitted it. But if you
Yeah,
click on your seat, they show you a picture of what your seat looks like. Well, not what your seat looks
yeah,
like,
not
what
the
the view
view.
from
Yeah,
the stage looks like.
and you
Um,
can always ring up the theatre and just ask, what is the restricted view on this seat, and they'll be happy to tell you.
yeah, yeah. So I think they're kind of worth it if you're not like kind of overly fussed about having a clear view. Then they're a good way to see the show for a cheaper price.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, and then finally, this only happens in select venues. There's standing tickets. Um, this is particularly for the Globe, Shakespeare's Globe. Um,
Ah.
some of it's like open air, and so like the higher bits are covered, but the sort of like stalls area with the standing bit is like out in the elements. So if
Yeah.
you fancy standing like good old traditional Elizabethan theatre, then you can do that at the Globe. And I'm not sure on the prices, but I imagine it'd be probably one of the cheapest options. Um,
Yeah.
but obviously Shakespeare plays are notoriously long, so you got to have the legs for it. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And if it starts
Well,
raining, then
you're stuffed.
you get wet. Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't be my choice, but
No,
I'm sure
but then I
some
suppose
people
it's
wouldn't
it's
mind.
weird because it's not really normal in the theatre, but it's really normal at concerts and things, isn't it? Standing.
Yeah, I've actually recently I've kind of thought if you've got a stand, I ain't going. I'm getting too old for this.
Yeah, yeah. That's so true though.
I think I've stood at like 3 or 4 concerts and just like when especially when people have like got drinks and alcohol and stuff and they're jumping around and standing on you and I've had a pint of beer poured down me before and I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah,
not
it's just
I'm not
it's
here for this.
chaotic. Yeah, very
And
chaotic.
then if you want to go to the toilet, you've got to push your way out, and then you've got to push your way in, and then people think that you're pushing your way in. And
Yeah, I went to one concert. Well, it was like a festival thing once, and like the key is just to hold hands with your friend and just literally push your way through. You just hold hands with your
yeah,
friend and you just hope for the best. They'll put like I let her go in front and like she just pulled me through, you know. Um,
yeah, so true.
but yeah,
But
it's just
most of most of the arenas that I've kind of when I've been to arena show recently, and it's standing. Most of them, although they're standing, they've got seats, so they're not officially standing because you've got seats, but because it's like in the standing area, everyone stands. You know what I mean?
yeah, which is it's like nice to have the best of both worlds then. So if
Yeah,
you want to
I
stand,
like doing
stand.
that because
Yeah,
then like you're able to stand and kind of join in a bit, but when it's like the break and stuff, you're able to sit down
yeah,
and have a little rest.
yeah. I think that's the best option personally.
Yeah,
So yeah, really, to answer the question, as always with all of our questions, it depends, doesn't it?
yeah, it depends on the theatre, depends on your personal choice.
But I hope, we at least gave you a run through of your different options. So
Yeah,
next time you book, you can, well, think twice, what do I want to see? Do I want to see the choreography or do I want to see the faces?
yeah, that's basically
Basically.
your options. Or am I not bothered about either and happy to sit in the
Yeah,
balcony?
or do I want to save money?
Yeah, yeah,
Or not save money and get a box?
yeah. Has anyone ever sat in a box before? What's it like?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Someone tell me that.
Yeah, let us know.
So, on to the news then. A lot of stuff's happened, really. Well, few things have happened, but the things that have happened have been big impact, let's say.
Yeah,
Um, so Boris Johnson has announced a month-long lockdown, which starts, well, which would
yesterday.
started yesterday actually. Until the 2nd of December. So obviously, theatres will close. But Oliver Dowden, the Culture Secretary, did say that they can open for rehearsals and any streamed performances, which is really good. Um,
Yeah, that is really nice.
yeah, so in
I do
terms,
just feel sorry for there were so many shows that had planned and prepared for like social distance shows
yeah,
that now can't open.
really got a feel for them because yeah, they've tried so hard to like make it work and like the obviously the funds been like handed out now, so and like that all like there was like pantos being announced and all sorts, and now they're all in the balance again, sadly, hanging in the
Yeah,
balance.
I guess the pantos are still possible,
But we
but
don't know at this
there's no
stage.
guarantee
Yeah,
that the lockdown will
there's
end.
been
Yeah,
no save away really on that front, has there?
no, wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, and in terms of shows, Six on the West End is planning on reopening on the 5th, um, and Salford on the 4th, or Salford, depends how you pronounce it, Salford probably. Um, And then the Rent revival that we mentioned will unfortunately close, but the online stream is still happening. But tickets are limited, which is interesting because I didn't know that
Yeah,
tickets could be limited for an online stream.
I know. I mean, my only thought is if there's that many that it kind of like overloads the
Yeah, it
servers, but
must
I'm
be
like,
capacity
surely it won't be
reasons.
that many.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then the next bit of news is Children in Need, which is happening next Friday on the 13th of November. That has been announced that Six and Cinderella are going to be performing on the night, which is very
Yeah,
exciting.
I'm looking forward to that, definitely.
Yeah, not something I was expecting, but cast is still to be confirmed. But the rumours are it's going to be the tour cast of Six, which will be nice. And I'm going to assume that Carrie Hope Fletcher will be part of Cinderella. Now, whether it'll be just her or if there'll be others, I don't know. But
But
I'm excited
that's
to
your
see that.
take, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very exciting. And I keep like forgetting that there is going to be a Children in Need this year because obviously there was the big night in that they did with Comic Relief, and I keep forgetting that they're actually doing a standalone one.
Yeah, I feel like it's been like quieter than usual. I am hearing more.
Yeah,
I've heard quite a bit about. I think the most I've heard this year is the rickshaw challenge.
yeah,
That they usually do kind of like sort of linked in with the one show, don't they?
yeah.
But yeah.
So what have you got for us for Song of the Week?
So this week I went for Defying Gravity from Wicked.
How have we not got that on there yet?
I know. Well, I was going through and I was thinking, which big songs haven't we got yet? And that was the one that I thought. And I thought it makes sense because it links in with the fact that it was Wicked Day last Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't know when this goes live if they'll still be there, but on the theatresupportfund.co.uk, who was, well, I say was doing, they still are selling the show must go
Yeah,
on
merch.
merchandise
Yeah.
and t-shirts. They linked up with Wicked and did some exclusive merch, and quite a bit of it has sold out now, but I know you can still get at the minute like an Elphaba mask, with like Elphaba's bottom bit of a face on, um, and you can ask Stephen Schwartz anything, who is the writer of Wicked, or you can get a
Wow.
personalised video message from Laura Pick, who plays Elphaba, or Helen Wolf, who plays
Wow.
Glinda.
So there's some amazing things on the Theatre Support Fund. So definitely check that out if you haven't already.
Yeah,
Some really, really cool
yeah,
stuff on there.
and I think a lot of the profits um, go to the Theatre
Yeah,
Support Fund and
yeah. They go
the
to all,
charities.
all the different charities that are supporting everyone in the industry at this time.
Yeah, yes, that's really good.
Yes. Um, so next episode is going to be in 2 weeks' time. We're going to be moving to every fortnight now. Uh, and it's going to be a review of Craig Revel Horwood's novel, Dances and Dreams on Diamond Street.
Yes, which is very good if you haven't read
Yeah, it's just a spoiler. We think it's amazing, but yeah, we're gonna discuss it. That's not just gonna be the episode.
It's good.
We're gonna be just discussing it, just our thoughts really, and just yeah, literally just our thoughts, and that's all.
Time for the curtain call.